What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of Buzzed Up and Baked. I got my good buddy Tyler Coleman here with us. You may recognize him from some of my HABS fan versus LEAFS fan videos, and as well, we got my other good buddy Andrew from out west at Amarchand on Twitter, the legend himself. So we're gonna break down this HABS LEAFS playoff series, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. And this is, if you're new to Buzzed Up and Baked, we invite you to sit down with us, have a beer, have a toke, and shoot the shit, in on the discussion down in the comments, and I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for joining me, fellas.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Happy to be here. Not so happy about the other guest, but I'll get over it.
It's a little HABS Shrive in the background. It looks good.
Yeah. Well, congrats on your division championship, eh?
Thank you. I appreciate it. It takes a big man to congratulate the Leafs. I come from a HABS fan.
Yeah, it's. I think both of us are eating some crow from earlier on this year. Their passionate episode predictions that did not quite come out as planned. So congrats.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Let's get it going. So we have a fucking huge series coming up here. Something any of us have seen in our lifetimes, and I'm pretty fucking hyped up for it. Why don't we go with the Leafs fan first? How do you think this one's playing out?
I mean, I think the Leafs are going to win the series, but I just think as a fan, this is going to be so cool. Just like Leafs have, like that's terrible to think that we're in our 30s, and we have never seen a Leafs have playoff series. Like that's absolutely just terrible. So more than anything, I'm just excited for the fans to go at one another, the fan base to go back and show forth on Twitter and all that type of stuff. But no, I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's what better way for the boys to win a round than against the Habs. So I'm pumped. I can't wait. Thursday night's going to be a blast.
Well, I respect your confidence, considering. I don't know where it comes from. I mean, you grew up watching your team absolutely fucking choke every single year. But no, I get it. The Leafs are looking like a powerhouse this season, and it's definitely going to be a thrilling series. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure who's going to win. I think I could be wrong if I picked either team. So
that's the thing. I'm not one of those fans. I don't like quote unquote jinx and shit. So I'm not a big fan of talking shit or a big fan of saying we're winning, we're doing this, the big rah stuff. So I kind of like keep it tame. But for purpose of this, I have to say I do think they will win. That is my honest opinion. But yeah, I mean, I think hopefully it's just a good series and everybody can just enjoy it.
See, that's kind of the thing with all of this. We have 42 years of pent up pressure from multiple generations. Everyone, we want to put a prediction of it at the same time. It's I
think it's a lot of nerves just as much as excitement.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my dad is probably he was my age the last time they played. I mean, that's why I think at the end of the day, that's probably at the same time why we have all the childish insults. Now you just have to throw them out. I mean, we have all of our lives till we pented this shit up. All these years we wanted to play each other, we never could because one team was dog shit, the other one was playing well or playing someone else. And now here we are finally, ready to go. I think it's going to be a good series. I block out all this shit that I read and listen to. Both these teams are going to go balls to the wall. They know, we know.
Any sport you have a rivalry, I don't think it matters how much better the other team is than the other team. If it's a rivalry, they're going to play tight. They're going to be good games, regardless of the Leafs successful season. Montreal kind of slumping towards the end. Chuck all that out the win. It's going to be a hell of a series.
Yeah. So do you think it'll be a quick one, or do you think we're going to see a 6 or 7 gamer here?
My prediction, my predictions I put out and bet on, I had the Leafs in 6. So much of it to me is goaltending, and as a Leafs fan, I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Campbell went in there and kind of struggled. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Carey struggled, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Carey went there and stood on his goddamn head. So I mean, I don't know. Like I said, more than anything, it's just you're nervous more than anything. So, especially as a Leaf fan, you just run all the negative scenarios through your head, I think. I think that's just common with Leaf fans and just Toronto sports fans in general. So, yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that scares the shit out of me is if Carey, because he did it last year against Pittsburgh. So, if Carey can come in and beat Carey, the old Carey, and just dominate and will the puck not across that goal line, then yeah, there could be problems because you see what happened with Columbus's goaltending last year. Outstanding. So,
yeah, that's it's funny because with everything with the predictions, you fully expect the talented players to come out and play, and the Leafs have the talented players. It's depth versus talent. It's grit versus the elite talent. That's what it comes down to. Goaltending, All I'll say is if Price comes out and stands on his head in game one,
Yeah.
and whether it's a low scoring game, I'll God forbid say shutout. Sorry, it's too early to say that. But if that happens, like it's not even so much the on ice play, it's what's going to happen after everywhere else. That 24-hour period after that game is going to be an absolute nightmare in the media. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that's the thing with this rivalry. It's like, it's just, despite who wins and loses, it's literally going to be a nightmare to like be on social media, watch TV and the respective networks. It's going to be a gong show. And I think that's just that's the dynamic to it. It's the pressure point. It's so hard to say. I see it going the distance. I don't see it as a sweep or a 5-game or a 3-gamer. Our friend there on Jeff O'Neill, Leafs in 3. It's going to be an awesome series, and it's just too bad we're not sharing pints and punches and everything else.
Yeah,
it's going to be it's the best part of observing hockey, especially watching hockey from home when you can't be there, is the playoff hockey. Just the nerves you get, the stress that every single goal means so much, and like what Andrew was saying, like it's gonna get fucking toxic. Like, because let's not kid ourselves. The media on both sides, a lot of them are closet fans, and they do a really bad job hiding it. So like when there are calls that are questionable, or when there's some rough stuff going on that someone's not too happy with, or whatever. I mean, the media on both sides are going to fuel the fire, and they have two fan bases that are going to be just as fired up, ready to go at each other.
And I buy into that bullshit. They eat that up. So,
well, why don't we go into the nitty gritty here, and just maybe to keep it simple, we can go line by line. And so let's start with the Leafs. Their line one.
So that's the tricky thing with the Leafs here is, we know who the top two lines are, but we don't necessarily know who's going to fill out that bottom six and which way they're going to do it. I mean, a lot of expectations. Nash is going to play. I mean, what are you going to do with that fourth line? Is Adam Brooks going to be a regular in the come playoff time? Engvall, we were talking with him beforehand. Is he going to be a regular? The Leafs have a huge decision to make down there. But the first line, Matthews, Marner, and I'm assuming, I don't know why it wouldn't be Hyman when he's back. I mean, they seem to have Montreal's number this year. I mean, Matthews put up some big numbers. And Deneau, I'm assuming concussion, he'll be back. So that should be good. But no, I don't know. I just think that as long as the Leafs don't get frustrated, because they have the tendency to do that. They're not getting goals, and the goalies are robbing them, like the Calgary series this year a couple times when Riddick, before he got his Leafs stand on his head, the Leafs will visibly get frustrated. So as long as they just go with the flow, don't get frustrated if Carey stands on his head or if Allen stands on his head, whatever the case may be, and just stick to the game plan. I really like the Leafs this year. It's kind of funny. I want them to cycle more on Montreal's defense. It doesn't have to be off the rush. I think Montreal's defense has a hard time keeping up with the Leafs below the goal lines when they're cycling the puck, just the foot speed and all that stuff. So I'd like to see all four lines, for that matter, cycle a lot more, not just be the rush team that they're known for being. Because I think they have a huge advantage in Montreal if they can cycle on them. But the first line has to do it also.
Wouldn't you throw Nick Foligno on that line for that reason?
The reason I put Hyman on that line is Hyman and that line have just clicked. Like Hyman with those guys, he's a 20-goal scorer with that team, right? He does the things that Foligno does, maybe not the physicality part of it, but I like Foligno with that second line just because, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Nylander is not the greatest defensive player. So Johnny, he has some defensive life, he knows what to do defensively. So you chuck Foligno out there. I don't mind, but like those two can be intangible. Mixing a match up and down the lineup with those two. Galchenyuk, I don't think plays top six. So get that. Yeah, I don't think he plays, to tell you the truth, unless there's injuries.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not even sure if he plays at all. Which I don't know. It's funny how it's like the treatment that he's getting in Toronto is the same treatment that Mete's getting in Ottawa right now. It's like people are going nuts over them, and like they're not looking at a place out there, but they're not really producing either. But they're getting treated as though they are.
Toronto, it's funny because like when you watch Galchenyuk, he does do the right things. Like he does turn the puck over a little bit. I mean, that's every offensive player turns the puck over. I get a kick out of that narrative. Like they're creative. I mean, if they didn't turn the puck over, they wouldn't be beat. So that's whatever. But if the Maple Leafs are funny, like unless you're going to be skilled and make that top six, which I don't think Galchenyuk is going to, because they want a little bit of grit for those top two lines. He doesn't offer anything to be a bottom six guy, in my opinion. Right? He's a big body, but he's not going to go out there and hit. He's not going to go out there and necessarily tight check and be good defensively. So unless he's playing with Matthews or Tavares, I don't see a fit him on those bottom two lines. So I think just numbers, he's not in the lineup. But injuries, I mean, anything can happen. But no, opening Thursday night, I don't see him in the starting lineup for the Leafs.
No,
Yeah.
I guess the Montreal media will have to park that narrative for at least tonight. Galchenyuk
No.
sinking the Habs in the playoffs. So
You said that
sure
once.
they
They'll
want
get the
to.
game winner.
Yeah. No, he's scratched. We've already called it. No. So it's Marner, Hyman, Matthews, and line one.
Yeah,
line
Nylander,
two?
John Tavares, and Foligno would be line 2 in my opinion. Line 3 is
I
kind
mean,
of
that's a like incredible top six. I mean, how do you not love what Matthews and Marner have done this year?
Yeah.
I think it actually worked in their benefit to not be played together immediately, and now you're seeing the fruits of that. Like, they're just disgusting together out there. And then Hyman, I mean, he's an incredible player. He does a lot of the dirty work for the two of them.
Yeah,
he
he
wins
has
a
a
lot
motor.
of battles down low. Yeah, so that's going to be hard to deal with. But we counter with one of the best defensive and possession lines in the NHL with Danault, Tatar, and Gallagher, which is huge for us, having them healthy again. That will be the key for us is that matchup, and at least making that Leafs top line as much of a non-factor as we possibly can in games.
But you want to make them work for it. Do you want anything to come easy to them? And all of a sudden they get on a heater, and next thing you know, here we go, the Leafs just scored now. But they don't want them to get on a heater, and obviously, you know, they have 6 or 7 points the first 2 games this year. You want them to earn every single chance that they get.
Yeah, it's so okay. So you have a top 6 that, you know, quite frankly, we don't have the high end talent on. So
yeah.
And we know our strengths versus our weakness on the Montreal side. But so we have Danault against Matthews.
Yep.
Who are you matching against the second line? Because I look at it 2 ways. You can either Nick Suzuki did it against Malkin, while Danault had Crosby in last year's playoffs. Now, if it is Suzuki and you have Toffoli with you, is it Armia that goes with them? Because if it's Evans, Lehkonen, and Byron, well, then you could actually. I'm getting into the Cole Caulfield discussion of if he plays or not, because I think if you have 2 lines that can play both sides, you know, you need them to be you need them to play 2-way hockey against those lines, because I mean that's legitimately, like we said, they're both elite lines. You can't just have someone who can score goals but not defend, because Tavares.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we don't want to just have, you know, we don't want to be defending by staying in our defensive zone, trying to shut them down. We want to be able to, you know, get some ozone time as well against these lines as well. And by doing that, you're defending. You're also giving your score. And I mean, you know, to Gallagher are capable of that. It's just a matter of, you know, is our second line with Suzuki capable of doing that? I mean, that's a tough decision to make. We know he's going to be handcuffed to Toffoli, and you want to see Caulfield in the lineup. But Armia's had such a good, you know, and people will lose their fucking shit. Habs fans like, oh, how do you play Armia over Caulfield? But I mean, he makes the right decisions out there. He's, you know, hard to beat defensively. And then, you know, you do spend time in the ozone with him on the ice. But then you may not produce if it's him out there 5-on-5. Whereas if Caulfield is out there in the ozone, you may. But will you get into the ozone with Caulfield on that line? That's the thing, right?
I've watched enough games since Caulfield's come, and I mean, it's exciting when he gets the puck on his stick. And, you know, I tweeted something the last few days. And again, you say Caulfield out of lineup, you're just getting like ready to get grilled, because like, how dare you? But when he's on the ice, I've often found that he's hemmed in his own zone, whether it's his fault or not. It's like a nature of the beast, but he's in there. The last thing I think that Ducharme's going to want is to have that risk, that type of risk, and for trade-off with reward if he's hemmed in versus Matthews or Tavares line. Because at the end of the day, that's a big, you know, 1 goal can make the difference here, especially if Campbell's hot. So it's hard for me to figure out. And again, we're on the road to start, so I think I suppose we'll get into the more matchup conversations on Toronto.
Yeah, because that's a good point. On the road first, because that's the whole thing I thought is like Riley Nash. I mean, we've all seen him play with the Bruins. Well, he's known for being a shutdown center also. Yeah. So my whole thing was like, could the Leafs possibly try to match him up last change against the Suzuki line? Then you got to worry about Danault against Matthews. Then you get the Tavares against, I mean, whoever Montreal, Kotkaniemi, I guess,
Evans,
right? Yeah, right. So that's another thing. But to your Caulfield point, I mean, worst case scenario, he doesn't play game 1 and they lose or whatnot or whatever. The kid's going to play in the series. I think especially for Montreal, like to win this series, they're going to have to score power play goals when they get their chances. So I mean, taking that kid out would be, but like you said, you can't have him out there playing 11, 12 minutes and he's having his own zone. He's a -1. That's tough. That's not.
Yeah,
especially
I
in
100%
playoffs.
agree with that. He's got to be in the lineup somewhere so you can sneak him out there on the power play.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's going to be difficult, like in those first two road games to line match. Just thinking of it now, though, like our newly formed third line or whatever you want to call it, with Evans at center, Lehkonen on one wing, and Byron on the other. Like, don't count those guys out defensively. They've shown and Byron continues to be a really underrated player in the league. When he's healthy, he play drives big time. He can finish in tight. And Evans' defensive play this year has been, a huge help for us. So that really could help us in the line matching as well. Like you said, if Sheldon Keefe is going to try and catch us off guard and have the JT line out against a more a
younger
better
line.
matchup for them, then Ducharme's probably going to want to try that to be the Evans line. But yeah,
There's so many scenarios to run through your head.
Oh, I mean, for us to try to work through it, imagine the
Exactly.
side. Jesus Christ, and they have offense and defense. Who are you putting out? I just think so. Just for the discussion point, we'll assume it's Suzuki. Actually, so we have Dano, Gallagher, Tatar. Matt, are you Suzuki, Toffoli, Armia? Is that who you're with, or do you have Caulfield in there?
The way I wrote out this lineup, I'm Suzuki, Toffoli, Armia / Caulfield. I think that's what it is. And it's just, we very well may see Armia in the road games and Caulfield in the home games. That would actually make sense to me. And then in the road games, you can shelter Caulfield somewhere. But yeah, I do, as lethal as the Leafs top six is, I think even though in terms of offensive production, the Habs top six can match them in terms of being able to keep them at bay. I mean, Matthews is going to score goals. JT is going to score goals, but I mean, you can say the same about our top six, right? I do think defensively they have the ability to really frustrate these Leafs forwards. I mean, they absolutely, for the most part, and if you look at the record, they dominated us in the regular season. But if you go game by game, they're all extremely close. And then in the last, 3 or 4 matchups, we're missing key players. So we didn't really get a true look at what the series could be these last few games, I don't think. But yeah, I think the best example of this matchup is the first game of the season when both teams were healthy. And it was an extremely close game, and it went back and forth constantly.
Until that 3-on-3 overtime.
Yeah.
Dano falling on a breakaway, and it just unraveled. But yeah, I mean, you're sorry, Tyler, if you want to.
No, go ahead.
Okay. And I'm with you fully, Matt, on the fact that it's just been like, and we can dissect the Habs season, which has been just a goddamn fucking nightmare.
Roller coaster.
Of Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, we spend most of our time fighting our own fans, just as an example of how bad it is, right? Because one night you're in there and you're gutting it out and you're playing well, you're not shutting down, you're containing McDavid. And next night you're laying an egg to Ottawa, like an absolute egg. Clearly we've had, we've had our injuries. The schedule wasn't really an issue up until the last segment. Like, everyone had the same schedule up until a certain point, so we can't use that. You have your injuries, you have the inconsistency, you have Price struggling. Like, we had some annoying issues that should not have been there that we beat to death. But I think the injury part, like, as the year went on, like, you start watching these bodies come out of the lineup as soon as we clinched, it was insane. It was like, oh, here's 8 people out. Like, here's our AHL team that's going to go in now and play McDavid. Like, it's nice to finally just see some time for coaching to come in, because we had a coaching change, in case no one heard throughout the year, to like sit back and like work with the kids, have a couple of days off, and like get ready. Like, we haven't had that all year, which is like a nuts to think. But I just think the team, like, everyone's kind of short-sighted. Like, they remember the last few games, that's the team, that's how it's going to be. When in reality, like, you got to remember the preseason predictions from some of these experts that were around. Like, this team was supposed to be this deep powerhouse that had the scoring touch when needed. I mean, Toronto's came as advertised. I mean, they got better, or they got actually more gritty than I think people thought. But to like all of a sudden be like, Craig Button came out and said, "Oh, it's Leafs in 4." Like, Montreal's lucky. Well, Button, you were the first person to say before the season started that Montreal was the powerhouse
in the division,
and you pissed off Leaf fans, and you would agitate them for like a few weeks, right, to keep it going. And all of a sudden now it's like, just like the switch went off. I just think, I think it's closer to the start of the year of how that those games are going to go. than the end. I mean, all things aside, like the team is inconsistent and shit at times, but I just think we're in for a much nastier ride than I think people think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I think a lot to do with Montreal struggles too is like something might have got swept under the rug. And I think this week is going to help them immensely. Is, man, it's tough playing 4 games a week in the NHL. Like, it's tough. If they would have had a week off and they would have played, let's say, Sunday and then into the playoffs by Wednesday, I mean, I would have taken the Leafs maybe in 5. 4 games a week for the Habs going down the stretch. I mean, that's brutal. That is absolutely brutal. So it's a good thing they got this week off. And to your point, get coaching for a whole week systematically, everybody, and now you're just preparing for one team. You're not worried about, hey, we're doing the Leafs tonight. You got, Edmonton Thursday or whatever. Maybe you're focusing on one team.
Yeah, it was. I mean, people will say we're making excuses and whatever. Like, it's not even just that. We got to the point in the season where we kind of knew we were making the playoffs, and it was just like trying to figure out what is ailing us, and that's all I was trying to analyze. Right? But the schedule, like it was even before all the COVID shit. Montreal had a week break, like a month into the season. And then that alone made the latter half of the season really tight. Then the COVID stuff happens, and it was just unbelievable the schedule they had to put themselves through. So it made sense as to why they just were flat on a lot of nights. I mean,
and I'm sure Matt and Tyler knows this. Toronto knows that as well.
Like
the Leafs know what they got before. I think the last game we played, or the second last game we played, it was another back-to-back. It was another one of those player game and then play the Leafs right after, and the Leafs were waiting for a few days. Like that type of thing isn't going to happen in the playoffs. Like, you're rested, you're ready to go. Like I don't think we're going to catch the team by surprise. We may catch the half or the fan that's watching or some of the media, but I don't think that the players themselves are going to.
No, you're 100% right.
10 times.
Exactly.
No, you're 100% right.
We played it.
Everybody knew, like, we know Montreal is a much better team than last year. Much better team. And I mean, you players don't care about what Habs did against Edmonton. All the Toronto players know is Montreal is a big defense score. They're rough. They're gritty. They have to be on their game when they play them. I don't think any team is looking at, Montreal was shit, pretty much the last 2 months of the season, really never got back on track. I think that's farthest from the Leafs' mind. I mean, you're focused on a good team with some good players. And if Carey Price comes back and the best goalie in the world again, I don't think anybody's taking anybody for granted, especially in these playoffs.
Now, is that something the Leafs may have done a couple of years ago, and is why they've struggled?
This is my thing with the playoffs with the Leafs about choking and all that stuff. You want to call last year a choke job? I'm perfectly fine with that. They couldn't score. They got absolutely robbed. I have a hard time buying into the fact that it was a choke job that 20 and 21-year-old kids couldn't get the job done against the Boston Bruins. And both times Boston Bruins had home ice advantage. And one of those years, Boston went to the Cup Finals. So that whole narrative with that team choking, I just don't buy that when you lose to the Bruins in 2 7-game series. That's whatever, you know what I mean? One team has to lose. They're both good hockey teams. Last year, they couldn't score, and it's like it got in their head. Except for that 3-minute span where they scored 3 goals to tie it up in Game 4 and then won it in overtime. They just couldn't get anything going offensively, and they couldn't put the puck in the net. And I think that really messed with them, their psyche a lot. But no, so I don't buy that whole choke job thing at all. Last year, say what you want, but if you're calling the same the Leafs choke against the Bruins, I mean, I don't think we were watching the Bruins play the last 5, 6, 7 years. That's a good hockey team.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely fair. I think something that's kind of shot the expectations, or the Leafs in the foot, has been their expectations. Every year they come in and label themselves a cup contender. Maybe that's a good mentality to have. I mean, it pales in comparison to what the Leafs do, or what the Habs do every year, saying, "Oh, just make the playoffs and we'll see what happens," right? But I think that's maybe where it's, people think, "Oh, well, they were supposed to do it this year," and again they bow out in the first round. But yeah. I definitely don't think the Leafs are going to take us for granted, and a big reason for that is the leadership now on that Leafs roster. I mean, they got guys chasing cups that are vets that have been to the finals and haven't quite done it. They want to get it done this year, and I guess that leads us into the bottom 6 and the fourth line, right? Like, it'll be interesting to see, the Spezza, the Thornton versus the Eric Stahl and the Corey Perry, if they're in our lineup.
The Graybeards.
Yeah.
No, the Leafs, that fourth line for the Leafs makes me laugh. I mean, Simmons, Thornton, Spezza. But I mean, I guess if Evans and them are up on their third lines and Stahl's on Montreal's fourth line, I guess the fourth lines aren't really, road runners out there now, are they? Kind of a slow pace. Yeah, I don't know, man. The stats have been very good this year for the Leafs. Thornton really got it going later on in the year. He started playing physical, which was so funny watching him play earlier in the year. Went through his little slump, and then just like the hell with this. I'm just going to start fucking hitting everybody. Start running around, hitting people. He's got his game going. Simmons still, I don't think it's to the point where he was earlier in the year before he got his wrist injury when he was scoring, being more. But I think he's the guy that once playoffs come, well, he'll just bring it. I don't think you got to worry about tight guys like that come playoff time. The thing with the Leafs that might concern me a little bit is if you put Nash on the third line, he can't score. He can't do anything offensively. But that's okay because he's good defensively. If nothing happens when he's on the ice, that's fine. Mikheyev can't score. I don't know what that guy I don't know what he did this year. He just can't buy a goal at all. And
That's
so
our
if
Lekanen.
Kerfoot goes,
These
yeah,
are Lekanen.
they work, and you know what? Both of them work so hard, and they create chances, and they just can't bury it. But they're both very valuable. So I think the third line for the Leafs may be more offensively challenged than the fourth line for the Leafs. So I mean, maybe that third line turns into a shutdown line. Even if you take Kerfoot off and you chuck Engvall on it, then you have Engvall, Mikheyev, Nash, however you want to work it. I think this year more than any other year, the Leafs have options when it comes to their forward depth. I don't think the Leafs had depth like this at forward until this year, to tell you the truth. I mean, like another guy, Adam Brooks, 5 points in 10 games this year with the Maple Leafs. He could easily pop in the lineup at some point. Galchenyuk, Mike. So I think the Leafs, a lot of mixing and matching. I think a lot depends on how Sheldon Keefe wants to do this. Does he want the third line to be a shutdown line and try to find a better matchup for Tavares somewhere? Or do you want to roll top six on top six and bottom six on bottom six and see the chips fall? So I think there's a lot of options Sheldon Keefe had that he didn't have last year.
Yeah, I mean, no one can dispute that. I mean, that you've insulated the gaps that you had last year. I mean, I definitely thought losing, some of the players you lost in the offseason, Captain Johnson, like maybe you'd regret it. As the season went on, Dubas, proved that, glasses aside, he's a pretty smart guy there. And he insulated the where he needed to. I don't know enough about Brooks to really say, whether or not he can maintain what he did prior to.
I don't think anybody's can.
No, like, I mean, it's funny because his last few games of the year, and I think he scored against Montreal, got an assist, I think, last game. But when we get into the playoff portion, you have the Folignos, you have the Simmons, you have the Spezza, you have the Thornton, like right there is already a big change. So I think, and you didn't even mention that Kerfoot is down there in the bottom six too, right? Like
I think he goes on the wing on the third line.
Yeah, and he's pretty, he is solid. He's a solid player. So on our third, I would think we touched upon it, Matt. It was the Evans, Byron, Lekanen. Is that the third or is that the fourth? I think it's the third. All things considered, I mean, they've earned it.
Yeah.
So right there, you have kind of that's probably our choice to. I mean, if they can go head to head, I'm okay with being at this point going into the playoffs hot. I'm okay trusting that line to kind of produce. It's the fourth line. I'm calling it the fourth line, but Josh Anderson's on it. We haven't even brought him up yet. Who's been playing pretty much, I think he's been banged up this year, but it is what it is. But is it Anderson, Corey Perry, and Stahl, or is it Anderson, Corey Perry, and Kotkaniemi?
Yeah,
we have questions.
Tough. It's the huge questions. I have no idea how to line up this Habs forward group. Ducharme has some major decisions to be made here. At this point, the way Kotkaniemi's been playing to close out the season, I'm not super confident that he'll be in the lineup. And again, I'm not so sure Habs fans would be happy with that. But I mean, and as frustrating as Eric Stahl is to watch, he's not getting scored against anymore. So it's hard. I mean, I think you have to. I don't know. I have no idea, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I think I'd go with the young guy in Kotkaniemi who has the speed and hopefully can maybe get his game going. He'd definitely offer something more. Offensively, he's looked fine on the power play. So, yeah, it's tough. But, and then Anderson technically on a fourth line. I mean, he's on a 28-goal pace, right? So it's weird, right? I think the biggest thing for the Habs in the bottom six is that Evans, Lekanen, and Byron line, I think, is going to be incredibly crucial to Dominic Ducharme being able to – I throw that line out against Matthews. I'm that confident in as a group, their ability to defend. So I think he's going to that line's going to, jump up and down in terms of ice time, but it would be definitely nice to pair up Josh Anderson with someone who he can produce with. So I'll say this
about Kotkaniemi. If you have Anderson on the fourth line, Anderson just plays a different game against the Maple Leafs. Whatever it is, he's played against against his hometown team, whatever you want to call it. He just brings a different nastiness against Leafs than he does other teams. If you can drill into Kotkaniemi's head, because we seen him do it before, get in on the forecheck, bang bodies, use your speed. You're on the fourth line. If you don't score, whatever. But with those two getting in on the forecheck, banging bodies, they should be able to create a little bit just off that alone, you would think. So as a Leaf fan, I'd rather Montreal Chuck Stahl in, to be honest, because but Kotkaniemi, like, forget about where he was drafted. If you can drill into that kid's head for this playoff series, in on the forecheck, in on the forecheck, in on the forecheck.
Just accept a role here. And get the job done.
And you know what? He's a Finn. Finns have no problem by recent memory of accepting roles.
Buying in, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because you're hearing, and again, you know how it is in our markets, the rumors that come up. Oh, Stahl had a clause where he had to play. He couldn't be scratched. I don't know if it's true or not. Like, it's
dude, he's in Buffalo. It's like, you had, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're welcome for the trade, Eric.
Yeah.
You don't dictate terms here. But be it as it may, if that was somewhat the scenario, I mean, fuck you. Now it's the playoffs, so we have to do
exactly
what we have to do. Kotkaniemi, I mean, the kid's finally getting days off. That's one thing. Like a kid that's that age, that's typically a rake. He put on some muscle mass before the year, and now has been playing, a game every other night and playing, 15 minutes a night. Like, I mean, he's shedding off any muscle mass that he had, and he is exhausted. Like, there's aspects no one really talks about too much with, like, the younger kids, but he's done. Like, he was done. So this week, I'm assuming Ducharme will be watching. He's a pretty bright guy. We all know from the Mooseheads days. I'm sure he'll select the right one for the benefit of us and hopefully the demise of you guys. Sorry, but, like,
love that you bring that up too, because if you compare him to Nick Suzuki, who's just a year older or a year and a half older or whatever, they're two completely different centers that play very different styles of game. And the way that Kotkaniemi plays, and the reason why he hasn't peaked yet, is because the way he plays, he needs to be a big hulking center with weight who is not going to get worn down over time. Whereas Nick Suzuki's the smarter guy who's kind of shifting in and out of space and finding the right areas to go. And he's not in the corners banging away and trying to win puck battles, right? So I can see exactly what you're saying, and that wears him down over the season. Maybe the week off, does good for him. And, I like what Tyler said too, accept a role. And he did it just that last season, led our team in hits in the return to play and in the playoffs, and tied for the lead in goals. So
fucking greaseball too. Knocking a guy out of the game, just dirtbag.
Love it though. Hey, like, I don't mind that hockey at all.
Well, I'm glad you don't mind that hockey.
I don't mind it one bit.
That's the type of hockey I want to see out of the Habs in this playoff series, because we didn't see it in the regular season except for that against the Leafs, except for that first game of the year. And it's like, I don't know if it was because the points were so valuable, they focused in on, I don't know, but I want to see some animosity from the Habs and from the Leafs, like both teams just hating each other.
Yep.
Yeah, it's coming. It's finally coming. I mean, you just have, it's just such a different culture, both groups. I don't know. Like, the Leafs were expected to make it. They did. They acted as expected. They did their thing. They won the division. Montreal, I mean, they had some pains. I felt like at a certain point they looked at the standings and said, yeah, we're good. And, the injuries and everything, they coasted home, like we touched upon earlier. Now all that shit's gone now. Expectations are gone. That doesn't matter what anyone says anymore. You have you and the rest of the team, you had 4 games, win 4. Otherwise, it's shit or get off the pot. And all of a sudden now it'll start.
We've been watching playoff hockey our whole lives. Seeding means shit come playoff time. Like, honest to God, like, if for fans, don't get caught up on in the regular season. This is a whole different beast.
Isn't it ironic that Boston fans are chirping us for, that we can't beat the Leafs? I just find everything so funny, right? The fan bases. Oh, good luck. Oh no, you have no chance. You're screwed. I'm like, you didn't say that before. They're saying it was a sure win. No, it was you, but it's just so funny. Like, you have the Boston Bruins fans now, they're just loving this because they get to sit on the sidelines.
Oh, exactly.
Give it to
They'll
us.
just chirp whoever loses. They can't lose in this, honest to God. Whoever loses, they'll just go after them. So, the worst part is, you can't really say shit to them because, like, I mean, Matt, you haven't seen the Habs win a cup. I haven't seen the Leafs win a cup. I mean, Andrew, I don't know how old you would have been when the Habs. So yeah, that don't count.
That was 5.
So that's
Great
I give you
time.
that counts. I mean, 5 years old. That's so. I mean, they just chirp now. They got nothing. They love it. Big trippers.
Yeah, I mean, we're in uncharted territory for that, but I think we're about to get, it's going to take, and I mean, it might take Matt, you touched on it. It might be a little slightly dirty check to want it to Matthews, which will then fire up the media and the fans. We would do the same thing if someone like Price got run. Like we've been
If
down
Armia
that
got
road.
slew-footed, something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Well, I'm still mad about
I'm
that. That's
just-
a fucking fine. That's a fucking fine. It's bullshit.
I agree.
How
But,
fucking
like-
ridiculous is that? The mystery fine that showed up for who was it that got it? They
Oh,
tripped Tavares.
Nian or
Edmondson.
something. No,
Edmondson got
Edmondson
it.
slashing, or yeah, the trip in the back leg.
Yeah.
But who got one the other night for something that was kind of like, okay, like
Oh,
whatever.
so
Was it Minnesota? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
It's a $5,000 fine or something.
Yeah. For
And it
dangerous trip. Yeah. I saw it. I saw it. I just don't remember who it was.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't remember
Edmondson
now.
on
Top of my
Tavares,
head.
and then the slew foot happens, and
Fuck the rest
I've
of the
had
night.
issues with these guys all year. I've had issues. Like, I just don't understand some of the
All we
people that
want
get
is-
suspended.
all we want is consistency across the board. Like, treat the stars. I know you have to protect the stars a little more, but at least protect the rest of the players in the league as well. Right? You can't see dirty shit happen to them and just pretend it didn't occur.
Dude,
So,
if McDavid's throwing elbows, give him a fucking game. If
Well,
it's
that's-
Tommy
yeah.
Wilson, you're going to give him fucking 5 games. So we're not asking for Connor McDavid to 5 games. Give the kid a game. What
Yeah.
the fuck's the harm in that?
the fact that I'm saying this it pains me that we're where we are right now, but like Matthews doesn't grease people for the most part. Like he doesn't want to get his cross checks to the lower spine. Therefore, he doesn't throw elbows at people when he's going into the
Exactly.
corner. McDavid is going to get fucking hurt very soon. Like he is playing with fire with some of the stuff he's doing. And I've heard it all, being out west. I've watched it. He has been greased in the past, but fuck the stuff he's doing. Just with the elbows to the face, man, like constantly.
People are always going to want to take your head off for you putting them on the highlight reels as is. So now if you grease them, and I mean, it might take a little shot after the whistle, bust someone in the face, but there's a broken nose or something. But I agree with you. I mean, someone's going to get him. And I hope to God it's not dirty. Like, I hope it's a good, clean hit. I don't want the kid to get hurt by any means.
Yeah.
It's terrible for the game, but he'll get his shot.
Matt has to be careful here. He doesn't want to say too much because
Don't say train
to
wreck.
the stars.
Yeah, don't say train wreck. I suggested this months
Train wreck
ago,
it.
and I got fucking
Killed.
Dude, and don't get me started on Connor McDavid crashing creases, like an absolutely running goalies too.
Straight on.
Like,
yeah.
if you're gonna
Just 'cause
do
he
that
scores.
shit, like if I'm a goalie and it's a game that maybe doesn't matter if we're up or whatever, I'm pulling a Hextall and you're getting smoked as you're coming in at me like that.
Oh yeah, I'm dropping my fucking knee right into your fucking dome.
Yeah,
I don't
that.
like. I'm going all my weight on you. I don't
I'm
care.
surprised there hasn't been goalies that haven't been hurt yet. And I mean, he does try right at the end sometimes when he just beats the defenseman wide and he comes flying in. He will stop up like when he's in the crease or
Yeah.
whatever, but he's gonna I
think just
for him to be off limits, like no. Austin Matthews isn't off limits. I mean, he is a
No.
bigger guy and whatever, but I mean, you can't. I don't
the
know.
one thing I will say with that though is I just think nowadays there's so much respect for the skilled players. Like I think you see when Crosby first came in the league, like Darian Hatcher, some of the fucking shit he was pulling off, like those
Yeah.
games against the Flyers. You don't see that now. I think a lot of people have so much respect for McDavid and Matthews for that matter, because Matthews really doesn't take a whole lot of cheap shots either. Like he'll get cross-checked on the net like earlier in the year, but that's like that shit happens. It's 2-minute penalty, 2-minute penalty. But I find like a lot of guys that are so respected. Like look at Johnny Gaudreau. People are fucking slashing his goddamn hands off a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They're just trying to kill the kid. So
Yeah.
I just find it's a respect. They're a lot more respectful nowadays. I find to the star players too.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched. I'm in Calgary, so I watched Johnny Gaudreau, and I've learned to hate Edmonton just from prior to even moving here, but that's probably due to family. But anyway, but you watch Gaudreau, and it's legitimately like it's dry-sidle. I mean, you have like stars doing it, and you have bums doing it, and
Yeah.
he's just getting hacked, and he's a small. Not everyone's Gallagher that just takes shots to the face, and he just keeps playing it like
Walks it off.
and goes exactly. But like he was just getting mangled, and nothing came out at all. And McDavid would then play Calgary and get he'd do that net crash, and
Yeah.
the defenseman would say like fuck this, and he would drop him out a bit. And this isn't the Manning thing that came in from Philadelphia. There was greasy plays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Ourselves, but Giordano, the guy's never, he's just a grizzled old vet. He
Class
doesn't really
act.
do much you can't hate, or the story that you could hate. But all of a sudden, he's vicious. He's trying to take up McDavid. I mean, the one time there's some sort of like, it's just that's not how it's played. If you're gonna go like you're a very exciting star and you're driving the net, well, you know what? You're anybody else driving the net, and whatever happens to you. Like protect the crease, protect
You
this
just take
house.
balls driving the net. Now I mean
Yeah.
you can just
And to be clear, like Tyler said, we're all talking clean hits, like body check them, hip check them, just lay them out. Like, I know the goalie stuff I said is a little greasy, but I mean, that's just trying to get a point across. Like, just, he shouldn't be off limits.
You're just
No,
you're
I
just
agree.
the classic fucking street hockey goalie. Just it's coming out, blockering
Oh,
people in the face, and
dude,
they come too
street
close
hockey
to you.
goalie. Matt was like a Mike Commissaric dude. Like he'd fucking be blocking shots with like orange hockey balls. Like, dude, what are you doing? Like he'd be
Well,
getting out of one knee. It was just ridiculous.
Who
Matt
Lucic'd
blocked
him
it.
then?
No, Matt Lucic, somebody.
No. Did somebody
No,
Lucic
no
him
one
then?
Lucic. No,
No?
no. That whole part wouldn't have existed with Matt's commissary. Matt did get someone good though one time.
Just
Sticking up for a
just-
teammate who happened to
just
be.
Fucking-
the
yeah.
the
no,
asphalt.
sticking up for a
Yeah.
teammate on the other team.
Yeah, yeah,
asphalt
but you knew
all-star.
it pretty good.
Was this in the Superstore parking lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Your parking lot. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
why don't we move on to the Leafs defense here? We got Riley and Brody up top, eh?
Well, yeah, Riley Rover, TJ Brody defenseman. That's how that pairing works. Yeah, he's been that was a huge addition this year. Like really, really subtle at first. I mean, I think a lot of people had high expectations just being optimistic Leaf fans. But yeah, he's been fast. So guy played there on the top pairing this year. So that's good. But yeah, those two at the top pairing. Riley playing first power play minutes, which is kind of tough watching. The second unit or the second pairing has been predominantly, I think, their best pairing. They've struggled a little bit down the stretch. It's been Muzzin and Hall. They've been absolutely phenomenal for the most part. Hall's a really good skater for his size. I think that's an underrated attribute that he has. Muzzin, obviously, grizzled. Him and Anderson are going to have some sick battles in this playoff series. That's going to be fun to watch. I think my biggest concern, if Bogosian isn't healthy in time for the series, is that third pairing. I mean, Hutton's a big boy. He can move around. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Dermott. I mean, I think he's one of those kids who has all the skill in the world. I don't think he thinks the game right. I think the hockey IQ isn't there. I wouldn't be surprised to see Rasmus Sandin on that third pairing, maybe with Bogosian. If Bogosian's back fully healthy, I don't think you can run Sandin and Dermott together. But yeah, I think that'd be my one issue. I think in this series could be that third pairing for the Leafs. Depending on what Keith wants to do there, I think a lot rides on if Bogosian's healthy or not.
now we're on. I mean, no one look at the tape, but I'm pretty sure I said Brody would be absolute dog shit. Fairly confident. I think that was said.
Love your honesty.
Well, hey, I mean, it's all recorded now, so there's no hiding. Hey, was that you wearing a hat? Yeah, that was me. Like when Brody left Calgary, I thought he'd be in trouble going to Toronto. I just because Giordano was just so steady. But no, he's definitely settled in quietly. You don't notice him, and that's what you want. So yeah, that the first pairing. I mean, Riley has another notch too. I don't think the season was. I think he can.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He can bring it up, and maybe that's a sign of maturity. The season is what it is. Let's bring it in the playoffs. Sandin. I mean, did he stop playing because of cap? Is that what it was? That toward the end of the year they had cap problems?
Yeah, that's what the whole rumors were. That's why he came out of the lineup was cap issues.
I mean, he's our Romanov, right? You get in those conversations. They're the blue chip next wave coming up. That's
Yep.
I mean, it could be coming out party for either one. I mean, if he plays, maybe he insulates that third pair. Maybe he is what's needed there. I mean, it's funny with the Leafs. It's so hard to. That's what flows it so
Yeah.
well. Meanwhile, on our side, at times it feels like it's two different types of playing going on. So that's probably why we've ended up where we have ended up sometimes. But I just don't see any glaring holes in the Leafs side. I mean, Muzzin's just a goddamn giant pain in the ass on our end. But him and Anderson, they'll have their battle. I would assume it's the Riley line versus Gallagher. But it does leave some, from our end, it does leave some opportunity. I find just on our, like, we do have those four lines that can go. So, Corey Perry's of the world, depending what lines they end up on, there could be some opportunity. Top four of the Leafs, just like the top six, very solid, ready to go. It's the bottom kind of, you just don't quite know how that's going to operate.
Exactly.
And if we have an opportunity, that's where it's going to be just based on depth. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna not catch myself being a shithead and undervaluing any of them. So yeah, I think there's some definite talent there. Matt, anything?
Yeah, I would say I think there's opportunity for us to maybe exploit Morgan Riley defensively a little bit here and there. especially if we can get him, stuck in his own zone. You don't want him with the puck because he's just so good with it. Yeah, Jake Muzzin is definitely like game changer for the Leafs. That pickup a couple years ago, that veteran, cup presence on the back end. He's just, you're going to get the big minutes out of him, and he's not going to disappoint. Consistent every night. Justin Hall is just like, that's absolutely completed the Leafs top four this season. Definitely not something I would have been counting on at all. You got to give the credit to the Leafs professional scouting, or amateur scouting if they picked him up young, right? But yeah, that's been huge for them. He's been steady, and but yeah, definitely the bottom pair. Like Tyler said, if Bogosian isn't healthy, I mean, Ben Hutton, he's a big body, but he is not who you want on your playoff roster on your bottom pair. So if that's what you're relying on, I think we definitely have an opportunity there to have a guy like that in, hopefully get him making some mistakes in the D zone, and definitely Sandin over Dermott. I think that definitely makes sense as well. And he's a young kid who I think could prove himself in these playoffs. He could do. He with at the end of the season. He fantastic on their power play, and great moving the puck. So he seems like the type of the defenseman that would mesh very well with the style that the Leafs like to play, containing the puck, holding onto it, and I think he would work really well with the forwards as well. So yeah, I think there's opportunity defensively to exploit the Leafs, other than that Muzzin and Justin Hall line. But yeah, it looks good. I mean, I think Habs and Leafs would have the best two defenses in the North Division.
Oh yeah, I think so. Calgary's pretty good, but they underachieved.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, when you flip the switch over and then you start going through our top six, I mean, it's a different mix. I would assume, Shea Weber with his injured wrist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, but it was all a sham.
Okay.
His wrist is fine. He's ready to go.
I asked him what was wrong with his wrist too.
He apparently there could be some ligament damage in there. Our sleuth of the Montreal media, Tony Marinaro, who I believe
Jesus Christ,
claims there's ligament damage. I actually watched the segment this morning. Don't ask me why.
He probably did. He probably did do it. Cross-checking someone in the corner or something.
Probably, yeah. It's probably like Draisaitl or somebody. But he should be back. I mean, he was doing gag injury moves when he saw the camera on him last week. Like I think he should be okay. But he was spotted with a wrist brace during a photo shoot for the it was the hospital, or there was some sort of signing going on, or sorry, his vaccinations. They were getting vaccinated and he had a wrist brace on. So
yeah, he
could be banged up. But him and Sherratt, I mean, people can't stand that lineup in Montreal in some cases. I think when it comes to a playoff series, that's who you want. As long as the team's playing like a unit, like we were talking about with Toronto, like you need everyone to play together. So the forwards are on the same page as the defense. We should be in good shape there, because otherwise the cycle game, like Tyler was saying earlier, that's how you can exploit them if they're not on the same page. But there's going to be a fight for ice with those two. And I pity whoever goes to that front of that net or into the corner, because Weber and Sherratt will just absolutely put the lumber to them. And I guess depends on the series is going to be reffed. That's probably the biggest thing.
That's a good point.
But I mean, that's their game. They play simple, they play effective, and they can walk that line as they have to. And that's what they did last year. And that's probably the key to success there. Edmondson, Petrie. I mean, Edmondson, people made fun of that signing too. Yeah, I find most of our debates isn't like Leafs and Habs, it's Habs. It's our own like internal shit going on. Edmondson, I don't have any. I think he's solid. He plays a tough game. Compliments Petrie really, really well. I think Petrie's starting to pick it up. So at least we have an offensive weapon there. But he's as good as any. Top four, whether you put them as first pairing or second. He's ready to play two-way hockey there. Our third pairing, again, there's some question marks there. I think we go Kulak Romanov, but Kulak Merrill could be it. I haven't been really impressed by Merrill. I don't know about you, Matt, but I mean, he's veteran, but do you play him? I mean, he hasn't proven himself.
Yeah, I've definitely not seen the buzz that came out of Detroit. A lot of people got hyped on he's one of the better shutdown guys on Detroit. His analytics look good. I mean, people make mistakes evaluating defensemen with advanced analytics. It's just not. They're the type of player I think you can fucking show me your percentage XGF, whatever the hell, but you need to see what these guys do when they're challenged and they have a lack of time and space. And yeah, I don't know if it's the, maybe he's injured or tired too, but yeah, I definitely haven't seen the hype on Merrill. But Weber's definitely going to play. I'm hoping that the injury isn't bad enough, or I hope he's healed enough that we actually get truly what he's capable of, because he has struggled out of the last month and a half he played. It was getting questionable, and I think a big part of it was the consistency. He looked fine, and he'd do make the right choices and do the right things for portions, and then it would just be blunders, and you could tell he didn't have it. So hopefully he's healed up enough that he can really make the impact that we know he can. And then I agree with you. I would love to see Kulak get a few minutes here and there with him, because I think he can, alleviate some of the puck moving pressure, get the puck to our forwards very quickly. But for the most part, Ben Sherratt, I think, is you just got to lean on them. They'll have to be the rock, shutting down that top six and really kind of wearing them down, because I think that's what the Habs have to do in the series to have a chance to win, is make it go long, get to the Leafs early, so they can extend this and make it go long, and then wear them down to the point where they hate playing against us and are afraid to, get the game going that they are typically known for. And that would be that cycle and hem us in and whatnot. But yeah, so definitely the first one. And Petrie and Edmondson, Petrie, we need him at his MVP status. He's got over 40 points this season. We need him getting up on the board pretty much every game. That's going to be key to us, whether it's a couple assists or a big goal. And I think I'm definitely completely comfortable with Edmondson. I think he's been our best defenseman all season consistently by a long shot. And he does complement Petrie well. And then Romanov, another kid that a long grueling season, if he's rested up, he is so strong defensively. I think he can make an impact in not only defensively, but his physical play as well. Anytime he's out there against Matthews, he's going to be on him. Yeah, so Merrill, or what would the other option be?
Gustafson. Let's just not.
Exactly. Like putting Mete on waivers, and you say what you will about Victor Mete, he could have an impact, I think, more so than what, maybe underestimating a guy who put up 60 points a couple years ago in Gustafson. But I don't know. There was a couple games when I was sitting watching them, and Mete was doing things out there in the offensive zone that got me out of my chair, especially on the power play when he had a chance here and there. He can skate and he can pass. I don't know. It just sucks. The fact that we lose a prospect, and then just to replace them with guys who they're not going to be on the team next year, and the impact isn't as, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, there's definite. I mean, it makes you wonder how long Weber's injury specifically has been lingering, because they went and got a Merrill who plays that style. Like, I mean, you don't go grab. I mean, you get depth, but we had defensive depth. We had a lot of it. Gustafson was a cheap Mete replacement, so called out for what it was, a failure. That was a useless pickup. But like, it makes you wonder how long was Weber battling that, and how early do they think they would clinch? Because it took a lot longer than they thought it was going to. Yeah. And Merrill has not been the answer, but Gustafson was just, you watch YouTube videos and you kind of go through his season to see when he got his points. Duncan Keith made him get all those points. Like I watched those videos and I was like, fucking guy just waits for the one timer. Like he's a very, very poor man's Shea Weber. Everyone thought he was going to come in and be like, he's going to run the power play. Like, good luck. It didn't happen. But yeah, losing Mete, I mean, Twitter's Twitter. I mean, losing Mete, all of a sudden you're anti-Mete if you were not upset about it when it happened. I mean, losing an asset's terrible. I mean, Toronto, Tyler, you guys lost a fair bit of prospects the last few years because of roster issues.
Cap issues, yeah.
It happens, and it's absolute dog shit. And it is failing technically, because you don't want to lose an asset for nothing, but it happens. And in Montreal's case, I think because the train wreck season that it was, their up and down season, it made it that much worse. But I mean, you guys lost Jimmy Vesey this year. I mean, that's Montreal. We burned the city down. Like, it's just like
Travis Boyd was playing good for them at first.
Yep.
I mean, like losing Cap and Johansson in the off season, losing players. I mean, whenever your team's getting better, that stuff's going to happen. It's inevitable. I mean, obviously, he looked really good as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old when he first came into the league and all that. He could skate and all that stuff. But sometimes those guys take a little longer, and sometimes Montreal doesn't have the time to wait. And he's gone to a good situation. Hopefully, he turns out to be a good player, and I don't think it's going to burn Montreal long term either. I don't see the kid turning into some kind of superstar, so I don't see a problem with it.
No,
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm definitely not butthurt about it. My only thing is that it's just like, hate to see the homegrown talent out somewhere else when you bring in another piece that is going to play the role exactly the same way, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
especially in Ottawa, who we're about to all hate miserably
Oh,
for the next few
that's
years.
a good hockey team. That's a good hockey team.
Mind you, Melnick will get rid of anybody that wants more than 7 million.
That's
So
right.
it should be okay. But yeah, it's defense. I mean, matchup wise, how that all goes. I mean, I think it's I guess I'll throw it out there on the Montreal side. Tyler, you can do the same, or Matt for the Leafs end. I think it's clear you're gonna have. I think it's obviously Weber Sherrod versus the Matthews line when we can do it. Matthews will try to get out against Romanoff and Kulak when they can do it for last change, I would assume. Petrie, Edmondson with Tavares, and then the bottom six. I mean, it is what it is. I think that's where you slide in Romanoff and Kulak on our end. But on your guys, like who are you matching?
Well, like I said, I think it all depends on how Keith wants to go about this. If you want to put the Nash as a shutdown line, I think you play them with Muzzin Hall, and then you could play the third pairing, get them out there with both the first line and second line throughout the game, kind of help them out, so they're not out there with the bottom six guys. And then Riley and and Brody just pick up everywhere else. Well, it's just so dependent on how Leafs want to play this. I'm just finding it so interesting. But when the game's going to Montreal, I think it's Muzzin and Hall. That's who you're running out there against Suzuki. And then after that, I don't think the Leafs will necessarily be chasing as much. I think their main priority will probably get Hall and Muzzin against the Suzuki line. I don't see him chasing a whole lot for other matchups throughout the rest of that forward group.
Does Keith play a matching style?
Not
we're so used
really.
to Julian, because we're used to Julian from before. That was like line A. It's like that's what he would do.
Well, yeah. So the only time, even Keith last year, obviously his first time when in the Columbus series, and they didn't really do a whole lot of matching up. Obviously, you want to get your top guys out against that Dubois line when he was with Columbus and all that guy, your top pairing. But I think that's mostly the only matchup. Really, a lot of teams really probably do is try to get your top pairing or your shutdown pairing against the top unit of the other team, and then after that, third line maybe cancel out, second line versus second line maybe cancel out. But I don't see the Leafs chasing a whole lot of matchups. I think they obviously want to shut down that Suzuki line, because if you shut down the Suzuki line, I don't think you're scared of where else the goal scoring is coming from Montreal. And that's not taking a shot at them, but I think if you shut down the Suzuki line, you got to love your chances of
take as many shots as you can.
But yeah, so if you shut down that, I think that's the only. Well, I don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only thing that they'll be chasing is just shutting down that Suzuki line. That's Muzzin Hall's job, and then do you want to play Riley with the top line for the passing ability, hitting the outlets and all that stuff, the skating with the top line. But I just think it's going to be Muzzin Hall versus Suzuki line. I think that's the only matchup the Leafs will probably be chasing defensively anyway.
Yeah, it's so I can't shake the Anderson Muzzin out of my head. Like they've just throughout the year, I think it's just the way, and I guess Anderson's been on a few different lines this year. So that's where I'm in my head, if Anderson's off that Suzuki line and somewhere else, and Muzzin is focusing on the Danault, it's just great. It's just interesting to see over a 7-game true series how it's all going to go.
Well,
I would imagine. But I imagine Toronto's going to just want to play their game and have Montreal try to adapt. I would assume Montreal's going to try to slow things down and just clog it and try to be more of a counteract team. But Ducharme in the playoffs running his show. I mean, it's new to all of us. I don't know how he's going to approach this. Huge.
And for the most part, Toronto keeps their lines the same.
Yeah.
One guy might go up but you're going to have Marner, Matthews, you're going to have Tavares, Nylander, and then you're going to have the bottom six. I think Montreal is probably more ideal to move and mix and match their lines more. So, Anderson may start with the fourth line, but Anderson might play in every single goddamn line in that series.
That's
so
based on Ducharme's track
record.
Yeah. We can't keep up with the
Kotkaniemi, is he going to stay on the fourth line? I just think Montreal has so many guys that can just play. Because, for the most part, they're all not superstars per se, but they're all above average players. Yeah. So they can all mix and match, I think, a lot better than. So I think that might be, a thing to look out for.
Oh, definitely. That is the hardest thing when it comes to the Habs team. Like they have guys who can play in pretty much every role. Not any of them except maybe Gallagher is going to be elite, or maybe and Toffoli maybe as well is going to be elite. Upper echelon in that role. But yeah, guys slide up and down, and like beginning when we got down to the Habs fourth, and I'm like, Anderson, there's no way. They're definitely finding minutes for him out there because he's going to be
Oh
a key
yeah,
of the series, getting in on the forecheck, throwing the body. Like that is going to be, I think, the Habs' identity, and he's going to be a huge part of that. Definitely.
I just think they split. Like, part of me wants to put Anderson up with Suzuki and Toffoli, but then I feel like our whole team, the whole basis of it is having 4 lines that can go, because we don't have that superstar where our money's in the in net. So that's why Anderson separated seems like it makes more sense, because that's on our end. That's when you can exploit that third pairing on D when you can get it, or get a tired Muzzin after playing the Suzuki line, or it's just so interesting. Home ice advantage plays a lot, but at the end of the day, I mean, who are we kidding? These teams know each other so well now.
exactly.
Like the rules, it's going to be the playoff rules that kind of might sway something. But I think getting to the goaltending topic is, could be where all this is, won or lost, because you got.
That's a good point, because both power plays are shit. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's not. I don't think either team can rely on their special teams to necessarily win the series. So I think it's going to be like the little adjustments and the 5-on-5. I think it's going to be the difference in the series, not special teams.
yeah. I mean, and thankfully, like, I'm just glad there's no 3-on-3 bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest. Like, you go into a 3-on-3 with Toronto, I just roll my eyes and be like, well, fuck's sakes, like, let's go through this again. One mistake and it's over. Mind you, we couldn't start in overtime to save our lives in 3-on-3, but I'm just glad that's done. Now we have 5-on-5 hockey, and it's
Sudden death.
Yeah, and then to get to that sudden death moment, I'm so glad I'm no longer living in Halifax with all my old friends, because I would pay the price if we lost. But it's just
There's going to be a few of them. There's definitely going to be a few sudden death overtime.
Oh yeah,
counting on that in this series. I mean, yeah.
It's a foregone conclusion.
So like you get Jack Campbell now. The guy. Did the Leafs win tonight? Is the game over?
It's 3-2 Winnipeg.
That's why you're being more modest now and nicer guy to talk to.
I've been saying it for weeks.
Winnipeg.
I want to play. I don't care about regular season anymore. These games have been so boring lately. Like, just give me to
I've been saying the same thing
playoffs.
as well. It's gotten really stale. The whole North Division, face the same team. Like, there were games even against the Leafs where normally any other, doesn't matter what time of the season you're in. If we're playing the Leafs, I'm fucking up for it. If we're playing the Bruins, I'm fucking up for it. But it was literally like, okay, 9th time this season.
Like, exhibition games at the end, pretty much.
Yeah,
it didn't mean anything.
We knew who was going to be in.
Yeah,
Calgary was mathematically eliminated weeks ago. So yeah, it'll be nice to get it back. Where we're supposed to be, but
I will not miss this. Maybe 4 games a year against the Western Division rivals or Western Conference rivals would be okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But that's it. Like, fucking 10. No, I'm with you. I'm just busting balls. I mean,
yeah.
Fuck, after the last game, like, the Oilers dressing their full lineup like it's a goddamn contention game. They're
ballsy.
Oh God, I was Mike Smith. I was hoping.
And apparently they're doing it again tomorrow, because McDavid said he doesn't want to play. He wants to play this one game this week.
You know what? Whoever wins our series is probably going to win the North, because
Edmonton, I agree with that 100%.
Edmonton, I actually think Winnipeg is going to beat Edmonton. I know it sounds ridiculous, but like, McDavid, Draisaitl, name someone else who puts up points.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on Winnipeg.
I know. I'm their team. I'm not, but like, you just look at like Pierre-Luc Dubois, who can raise it up, and Maurice just coaches a good team, and Hellebuck is a net.
That's what the game comes down to, is Hellebuck with them,
right? And which, I mean, on our side, it's, you have Jack Campbell, who could just fucking exercise the demons that Anderson is, right or wrong. I don't think Anderson's actually been a Achilles heel in the playoffs. Like, Elvis last year, was it Elvis or Corpus? It was Corpusalo last year. I mean, was it both?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just run into that. I mean, we know with Price, sometimes an unnamed goalie comes in and all of a sudden he outplays Carey Price and you're baffled. But I mean, Anderson's there. He struggled. I mean, he could flip the switch, but Campbell's earned it. I mean, the guy. When Vezina conversations come up, is he in it or no?
No.
But
I don't think he had the game total. Yeah, that's the problem. Well, did you see the thing on Twitter today? NHL released like the top whatever goalies this year, and it was like a ridiculous, like Nedeljkovic finished higher than him, Mrazek finished higher than him. So I'm assuming it was a games played issue more than anything. But yeah, that's the one thing, is the goaltending. But I think if Campbell comes out and doesn't play well. I mean, at least you have Freddie to come in, opposed to if Freddie wasn't playing well, you didn't know what you had at Campbell, and Campbell coming in. That's the one thing that does scare me quite a bit, because I don't know what to expect from the goaltending. It's playoffs. Like, he can play great for a 2-month, 3-month stretch, but that doesn't mean shit come playoff time. So
yeah, Campbell's never played a single playoff game, and like
no,
but it is good to know what you may have in them, right?
exactly.
That's probably the last thing you'd want to see happen, though, is like like that's what I'm hoping the Montreal Canadiens do, is come in, score a bunch of goals on Campbell, and then start a goalie controversy in Toronto, so that all the focus goes onto that, all the pressure goes onto both of these goalies to get it done. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Jack Campbell's definitely earned it, though. I'm not sure we've talked enough about how much of a key player he's been to the Leafs this year. I mean, they like, and TJ Brody as well. I mean, what a difference maker. Their ability to take a lead and actually win close games and hold them out. I mean,
Yeah.
Jack Campbell's a big, massive part of that, especially in the last half of the season. Like, when was the last time Anderson even played?
The other day, he lost to Ottawa. But before that, I think it was like 2 months. What was it? It was something ridiculous, because he got hurt against Calgary in Toronto. So I don't know.
It was a while.
It was before the trade deadline, because
well before the trade deadline. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Campbell's been huge for the Leafs. But I hate to see Carey Price get outplayed by him in this series. And I think, I mean, I'm personally, I know that it's going to be Carey who we run with. Like, no questions asked.
The Allen conversation. Allen was brought in as a foot soldier to do what he did. Was basically get you into the dance when you have to. Allen is likely in Seattle. I mean, he punched his ticket. It's like $2.8 million next year. Enjoy your starting goalie. That's under 3. Ours is 10. It's Price is going in. Arrested Price, which should make anybody worry. But we saw arrested Price earlier this year. That I don't know what the fuck was going on, but he was playing like he was at Freddie Anderson. Like, but it's funny. Both starting goalies of both teams just
didn't have it this year.
Whatever reason happened. But I just think maybe goalie to goalie, Carey will put the pressure on himself, and maybe that'll bring him up and make him go classic Carey. Maybe it'll make him crumble. Anderson's the type that if he gets that's why that first game I mentioned earlier, like, it's, if Montreal wins that and gets to him once or twice or a few times, like, and I actually like the person. Like, he just seems like a fucking great
100%,
guy,
yeah.
right? Like, you talk to him, he's just tearing up and like you want him to be successful, but not at our expense.
Yeah.
But I just think they get to him. If they can get to him early, that's when you start, like Matt said, you start the controversy, you start the doubt, and all of a sudden now it's Anderson's here. He's a UFA, I think,
this year.
and now you're starting that. We'll put Anderson back in. Well, then that's what happened to Pittsburgh last year. They had they put Jari in instead of Murray, and then it all just started to unravel against Montreal. That was after a few months break, obviously, but still, I mean, Price was the price factor. That's all you heard last summer in the first 2 rounds. So we'll see if he has that back.
That's the one thing I'm fairly confident, or no, I am confident in, is the Carey Price we're going to get. I was saying to someone else the other day, it's like, the guy's a family man. I think he has his priorities straight. I think he works day to day through the regular season, but when it comes playoff time, I think there's a Carey that goes, I'm the goaltender of the Montreal Canadiens, and this is where I need to perform. When it's playoffs and when it's tournament time, I think we get Carey at his peak and what he's fully capable of. That's just a theory, but he seems like a guy who's got a good head on his shoulders, and I can see him being someone who, he's not taking the wins and losses as, I don't think he takes it home at the end of the day. And I just think, he knows who he is and what he's capable of.
He's another guy running out of a little bit of a racetrack here also with his career. So these games, he knows what also, like, a little desperation too might not be a bad thing for him also, where he knows, running out a little bit of time here, time to really step it up a notch.
Yeah. And him getting the injury and the time off here, it's definitely a blessing for him. And it was a blessing to have Jake Allen, to have confidence in a backup that could come in and get the job done. And did he ever? But Carey getting rested just ahead of these playoffs after a grueling season, I think that's just blessing.
Didn't hurt him last year. Hurt him last year going in the Pittsburgh round.
Yeah, so it's basically pretty much, it's not, I don't want to say first goal wins, but if Toronto gets to Carey early and can pop the balloon hype and vice versa. If Montreal can get to Campbell, who's, you know, could be rattled if he lets the goal in. Like I heard this evening, sorry, with the pregame for Toronto, it was like, get Campbell in, and if he starts letting goals in, you know, or don't let the Leafs need to make sure that he doesn't get scored on.
Play for Campbell there tonight.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I mean, again, younger goalie and experience. So like, yeah, it makes sense. It's just, it's so funny how goaltending can go. I have to give the edge, obviously, to the guy who's done it.
But yeah, that's no brainer.
If Montreal sets up Campbell for success, which, you know, we've made a lot worse goalies than Campbell look like Vezina winners. So, I mean, you know, it's not like we don't have that going for us. So, yeah, it's I think goaltending, I of course give the edge to Montreal. Offense, the edge to Toronto. The high end offense. Defense, I don't quite know.
It's a bit of a toss, in my opinion, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Which is why I don't know how people can say it's a sweep. I just don't get it. I don't understand.
There's no sweep in this series. I guarantee you that.
I think the best part, and we touched on it briefly earlier, is the complexities of this matchup. And it's because both teams are built differently and they execute their game plan a lot differently. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs decor, for example, are likely, you know, better puck movers than the Habs. The forwards, I mean, Toronto rolls their top six 22 to 25 minutes a night, whereas if you're on the Habs top line, you're getting 19 to 20. So Montreal rolls four lines. The Leafs will, you know, as much as they have depth, they are still going to be relying on the top six. And then the goaltenders, even, like, you know, we got Carey Price back there when he's at his best, is one of our better puck movers as well, taking a lot of pressure off the defenseman and really starting our transition to help us own the game 5-on-5. Whereas I think, you know, I'm not sure if Jack Campbell's much of a puck mover, but I mean, the Leafs will make up for that with their defense. So it's two completely different teams, one with a bunch of elite skill and the other with, you know, two-way forwards and a ton of depth scoring. Obviously the top sixes, Leafs gets the edge, but I think Montreal's bottom six, you know, will get the edge over the Leafs, especially in terms of their defensive ability. I think they can. I think we're mostly obviously going to have to worry about the top six. I think we can keep the Leafs bottom six at bay, and that because, you know, you're not going to keep Matthews and Tavares and that talent off the board. We just have to hope that we can win the matchup elsewhere.
Yeah, Montreal's going to hope to score. They have to have in their head, we got to try to score at least 3 goals a game to give us a chance. 3 goals a game. We should be able to win some nights with 3 goals with Carey and nets. And at the worst case, we should be able to go to overtime if we can get 3 goals a game. So I think that's what Montreal has focused on. If we can just somehow find a way to get 3 goals a game, we have a chance here.
Yeah, it's so funny. If this was like, if we were playing Ottawa, I would just literally just be like, fuck you, you have no chance. Like, fuck off, Tyler, with your combinations. But like, being Habs and Leafs, it's just like, and this with so much pressure going on, I'm like, no, I respect all angles, because at the end of the day, it can go either way. And if it does, you know, respect your opposition and just, you know, it's not, we're not losing. I know it feels like it is. Like, I think as fans, it feels like it is, like 42 years of like pent up like frustration about to happen. And if we lose as either fan, we're like, it's us. Like, no, the team's playing on the ice. Just, it's the first of many series, I hope. And let's just go to war.
That's a good point.
That's the big one. Yeah, I definitely hope we see this a bunch and it's not just a one-off. Like, for this to happen and then not happen again, like, fuck. But I definitely, you know, with the way Boston's trending, that could be a possibility, right? They're getting older, so that's definitely a hope. But it's good to sit down with a guy like Tyler, who, I mean, I'm sure in his heart of hearts he probably thinks the Leafs are gonna dominate us and just,
I wouldn't say dominate, said six.
Yeah, step forward and move on to the next one. But I feel like it has been a little difficult for us as Habs fans to at least, you know, make some people realize, you know, this isn't a cakewalk. I think for the Leafs, I think they're going to see a much different, much more motivated Habs team in the playoffs that are going to give them a run for their money and give themselves a decent chance to win, a good chance to win, I think. And the biggest thing, though, is it being, you know, a true old school rough, you know, series. I definitely don't want to see this just being one team, you know, take advantage and then it fizzle out. Like, I want to see a hockey playoff series for the ages here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be it's playoffs. So while you don't want to see, you know, Matthews get his spine broken in half, it's the cross-checking stuff, though, is going to be like, it's going to be more that first game of the year when we weren't getting penalized for it. And it got brought up in the media that it wasn't the Leafs directly. It was the agent of McDavid, I think, that it's the same how it started. Like, oh, the star players being harassed. Depending on the results of the first game, there can be so many places the media can go, but I think it's going to slide, like, to a point. It's good playoff hockey. Like, it
always has.
Yeah, and it's the North Division. Let's be honest. Gary Bettman couldn't care less about who wins out of the North Division because he's going to fuck us over in the top 4 anyway. It's Canada. He doesn't care about our ratings. Yeah, he has his TV deal in the ESPN. He's good, but it's harder hockey. And I to your point, Tyler, with like the frustration part, Montreal's going to clog it down, play hard, and do their thing, and try to stop Toronto from playing their high-skilled, offensive, like high-octane game. So depends how the refs go. I mean, God, we should probably check who the refs are because I mean, there's some that have been absolute dog shit in our division this year. So hopefully we have somebody decent.
I mean, typically that's the style of hockey that wins out in the playoffs too. So I mean, and so if you consider that the Leafs are the clear, favorite, at the very least, it evens the series out.
Yeah, I'm the pressure part of it all, like it's nice. Montreal's used to being underdogs, I guess. Like when we had like a phase of 3 or 4 years and we were favorites. We were, top of the table. But God, like
every time they played Boston, it was underdog.
That's the thing, right? And that's where I compare this series almost. I know it's probably not apples to apples because I mean I was, barely 14 or 13 when that happened, but the 2002 series, Montreal was they got in, they had the emotional Koivu part from cancer, which we don't have obviously, but Boston was just this powerhouse that came in and there was no chance, but we had the hot goalie who, stole. We had some opportune goaltending. So for me, I think it's hard not to get my mind down that path, but of course it could turn out completely different. I think it's gonna be one of those skill versus will, Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed type of fights that go on here, and we'll see. We'll see if it goes in the trenches or not. But I like our odds. I can understand the Leafs odds, like the Leafs believing their odds as well. Like I get it. I get it on all ends. I can see either team winning.
But it's a rivalry. Like I said, I mean, I don't think in any sport, if you take a rivalry, regardless of the records, I don't think you can feel confident about guaranteed success. I mean, that's what makes a rivalry a rivalry.
Yeah. It's for the media. What do you guys think the outcome is for our GMs if either team loses? A little curveball. I've been thinking about this.
I honestly think they're both back.
Yeah.
I think they're both back.
Yeah.
I don't think any owner is firing a GM. Well, does Bergman's contract run out?
He has another year after this one.
Yeah, so I think they're getting paid. I don't think owners are writing checks for GMs to go away after a pandemic season with no fans.
Yeah.
I think they'll bite the bullet and pay.
Especially GMs that have built, on paper, pretty strong teams. Like to get rid of them over performances of players, or if a playoff series that hasn't gone their way. I just laugh.
It's like regardless. It's like regardless of either team, Leafs or Habs, whichever one wins or loses, you can't take away the fact that both general managers had 2 of the best off seasons.
They both improved their teams tremendously. Yeah,
like both general managers made impact moves that they won, and so yeah, I definitely would see both of them back. If the Habs crashed and burned and didn't make the playoffs this season, then maybe I could have seen some changes being made. But yeah, they made the playoffs. They moved a step forward in terms of their build right now, especially their forward group. I can see both of them being back. And then in terms of Dubas, the pressure's on. They need to win now. This is the season. The media might call for his head if something happened. Like, could you imagine actually if the Habs happen to win the series? It would be a fucking shit show in Toronto. What's surrounding that team, but I don't think the right choice would be to fire Kyle Dubas. Like, you still have to move on, at least in the short term.
Yeah, my thing is you can't agree with the guy's decisions, and then if they don't work out, say, okay, he deserves to be fired. It's like, well, you agreed with them yourself. So
you should make a burner account for the Habs because fuck, half these fans were all on board with all the moves we made at the start of the year, and now, holy shit, fire the GM.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Oh,
if you're wrong with the guy, how are you calling for his head? Like, what makes you like you were wrong too? So
you're deleting you're deleting all your history.
It's just I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you both. I think it's just funny how the firestorm will happen, but at the end of the day, 100%, they're both. I think our teams are in good hands overall. I think ours has some some holes to still fill. We're still getting better, and yeah, we're actually, it's funny. The core is still around the same age. You guys just have the higher end.
Well, we've just been in the
talent
league a
in that
little
respect.
longer, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but there's we're building what we're building, and I just hope it keeps going. But yeah,
Dude, this could be real fun. Toronto, if Montreal can figure out their offensive woes going forward, and if Oddball stays on track, that's going to make for some real fun hockey down the stretch here in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll see Canada own the Atlantic Division as they should, right? That would be the
Tampa
key.
and Florida too. I mean, they ain't going nowhere. That division will be tough as hell.
Fucking
Yeah.
Tampa. It's cap circumvention. I hope they get pounced by.
I'm so excited for that series.
Yeah, I'm with the
I'm
Panthers
so
to win.
excited
I'm
for
all
that.
over.
So do
I'm all
I.
over the Florida Panthers. Can't wait.
I want them to win. I don't know if they will win, but
Yeah, it's the only other thing I was gonna say, just with like we were talking about the season, the one thing I do, like Toronto had their blip at some point. They went on because you guys did have some like losing six out of eight. Like,
yeah, it was bad at one point.
yeah, and I remember comparing, being like, listen, guys, like even Toronto's losing, like fucking relax. Like we're all going through this. They're on this, same different times, but the same idea. But overall, I mean, there hasn't been too much in terms of uphill climbs or controversy for you guys this year. It's been a pretty good year overall. I mean, I'm sure there's been some you're in the trenches. For us, it's been a goddamn nightmare, and I'm pretty sure at least for one, like I just feel the team is they are galvanized in that room and kind of ready to go. And I just think a lot of that's overlooked to a point where they're ready to go to playoffs.
Well, they are, and I mean, on the other hand, with the Leafs and Matthews and Marner not winning yet, Joe being his age, Spezza being his age, I just think those probably cancel each other out. I mean, Montreal definitely had more adversity and faced more adversity this year. I don't think there's any disputing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, over the course of individual careers on each team, I mean, the adversity Matthews and Marner have been through over Kotkaniemi and me, Suzuki. So I think that might cancel out. But I just can't wait. I can't believe it starts Thursday. I wanted it to start like Monday or something. I seen you tweet something out saying that you heard Wednesday, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Well, that's what fucking Pierre LeBrun said, and then all of a sudden it was Thursday, and I was like, "This is horseshit."
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know. It's just the and the only reason why I said that was more like if losing early, the team's kind of like, well, we've lost a lot of games.
Oh,
this year,
for sure.
Go.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, it's a good point. Like your stars have felt it. They felt the pressure. They want to get over. They want to say, screw this image. I'm gonna win. Nick Suzuki and Kotkaniemi come in the first time in the play-ins and knock off Crosby and Malkin.
Host money.
We surprised us.
But that's a confidence thing that those guys now go into. Like, if you shut down Malkin and Crosby, why wouldn't you believe you can shut down Tavares and Matthews?
Well, so there too.
Yeah, he's
skilled bastard.
I know he is a magician. I wish he'd shoot more, but he's a magician.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about that kid, man. Yeah.
Mitch Marner.
Special to watch. Yeah, he's definitely enjoy. It's hard not to, like, there's plays I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, that was so nice.
When you're a fan of the game, you just cheer for good shit. And when a guy produces good shit, you cheer for him. Like, I like Patty Kane. Not really much reason to like him, but he does amazing shit on the ice. I mean, why wouldn't you enjoy watching him play? So
yeah, it's true. Who go ahead. Matt.
I was just gonna say I'm hyped up for this to start like you guys. It couldn't start any sooner. Just to be at the edge of my seat watching this stuff is gonna be an absolute blast. And it's a shame, we can't get together. We'll see what happens. But it's gonna be fun. I don't think I've even fully come to terms with what we're all gonna experience.
Wait till what we're feeling Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wait till what the nerves are like about those days. Thursday morning when you wake up.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be definitely an experience to have to manage ourselves through.
We each play Boston. Now we get to play each other.
Yeah, and how often have we shit on each other for our games against Boston or our series against Boston? Like, we've all been doing it for years. We do not know how to act. Like, we literally have no idea how to act. Like I said earlier, it's like, do I go back to my 15-year-old self, 18-year-old self, and just chirp Leafs like a child, or do I, am I an adult?
I don't say anything to the series is over.
I don't know what we're supposed to do. We have so much pent up anger here. Matt, who's your kind of under the radar performer that you think is gonna kind of get it done without, like, no fanfare, not the Gallagher's, Tatars, to know, is like, who's your, and Tyler, same with you, so you have some time. But who's your underrated player that's going to come in there and be the difference maker that people aren't talking about?
Man, I think I got to go with Jake Evans. I mean, what we've seen. I mean, he's got a lot of hype right now, but I mean, he's been he's been doing these things all season, and then he just kind of goes, he loses his minutes and then he goes back into the wings. If he gets an opportunity to really show what he can do, I think he could win some huge faceoffs for us. I think he can transition the puck up the ice and really help us, contain the puck up in the ozone and get that depth scoring that we're truly going to need against a team like the Leafs. He has some underlying skill that we're starting to see glimpses of when he gets an opportunity. So I definitely think I'd have to go with him, or that line in general. I think is going to be absolutely key for the Habs.
This is where we need Pierre Maguire to go on about Jake Evans, university, played here, blah blah blah, drafted 7th round. But no, good point there. Tyler, what about you on your end? Who's your unsung hero?
Well, the guy that I like, and he was so good last year, they got a skate, cut his wrist, and now he cannot handle the puck if his life depended on it. But I think Mackay's a guy for me. This is a new lease now, a new season. He doesn't have to worry about his woes in the regular season. The guy still plays tremendously. He just can't. He just fights the puck so much, but his speed is ridiculous. So if he can jump on a couple loose pucks in the neutral zone, turn over here and there, catch the Montreal defense flat foot or whatever it may be, he's one guy that can be a real game changer. If he could do anything offensively, what he was doing last year before the injury, I mean, that's huge for that third line and produce some scoring. Yeah, so he would be my guy.
That would solidify your third line.
I think it would be a huge thing. Yeah.
Who's yours?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you didn't go here. Corey fucking Perry.
That's a good one.
And I've watched that prick out west for the last, and I think at the start of the year I said this guy was going to be a complete prick. You really only saw it when he was playing the Western teams, and I just laughed my ass off the last few games, like against Winnipeg. Hellebuck came out and just bitched about him, just being like how he's the dirtiest player in the league. Like it starts and I'm like, finally we're starting to see it. All due respect to Thornton and Simmons and Spezza, like I'm not going to shit on the veterans who have paid their dues, but Perry, we were slowly starting to see the Perry effect kick in here the last few games. And I just think if anyone's going to be the one to get into Campbell's kitchen, being an ex-Duck versus King, it's probably going to be Perry. I just think he's going to come up with some nasty, greasy goals that we need. So Perry's my guy.
That's a great pick.
Look no further than last year in the bubble with him with Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not too long ago. So it's not like you're, pulling stuff from 4 years ago saying, oh, look what he did then. He just did this a couple months ago. So
he'll rekindle.
Yeah.
Happen. Yeah. It's Perry's my guy. But yeah. It's he could pull a hammy in the first game. I mean, God knows.
And he could get suspended for the series. So.
Yeah. That not wrong.
Well, I think that about sums it up, fellas. We got a huge matchup coming up, and it's going to be fun. I appreciate you guys jumping on and doing this with me. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
I don't feel better. I don't feel better either way.
I can tell there's more nerves here than excitement.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to get ahead of myself, because I'll tell you right now, it's going to suck if the Leafs lose, and vice versa for the Habs, just because you're losing to. So.
Yeah, regardless of how it plays out, there's going to be one set of fans and media who are going to be fucking savage. And it's going to be a dumpster fire on either side and an absolute fucking party on the other.
Stay off Twitter for a week if you lose.
Yeah, I waited to now. I am going to go with the cheap shot option of Habs in 7. Sorry. I'm going.
You would be a fool to bet against the Habs on match champ.
But it is the cop out of the century picking your team in 7. It's like the ultimate, just like, yeah, give them a chance. 7. But I feel like I should say 6th, kind of go with it, but 7. Habs.
We win at the Bell Center in 6. No, it's going to be.
I'm definitely not making a prediction because I'm not jinxing anything, and I don't want to.
You son of a bitch! You made us make predictions.
No, and I don't want to be wrong, but yeah, I think it can go either way, and I don't know what else to say. I just
enjoy it.
I know what you can say. It's 3 words.
Go Habs,
go
go
Habs, go. Go Leafs, go.